Hello, this is Shinru. In this video, I'm going to do a quick demo about promise. Promise is a very common concept in JavaScript. Um, in daily development, many useful API they return a promise, and understand what is a promise and how to create a promise of your own is very important for web development. So today I'm going to do a quick demonstration about how to create your own promise and what is promise. So here in this demonstration, I will first create a test promise, and the way you create promise is the same as how you create any other object. So you do a new keyword and promise, and inside the promise you can give it a function with two parameters. The first parameter is resolve and the second parameter is reject, and this defines how you are going to consume your promise in the future. So I write a function here, resolve and reject, and inside this function you can do a series of statements, and eventually you can give a condition check. So in this case, what I will do is let test equals to 0, and if test is equals to 0, it will resolve, and then you can send an object or anything through this resolve function. So for example, here if I create a test object and with name is Shinru and age is 28, yeah, just do that. Sorry, 25. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, you can do whatever age, and when you call resolve, you can pass this object, and so when you are consuming this promise in the future, you will get this test object in your parameter. So I will show you later. So here, if this test is not equals to 0, then what I will do is call the reject function, and given the error message of why it's not working. So let's say the promise is rejected because test is not 0. So in this case, I have finished create a promise. Now it's time to consume the promise. So first, I'm going to run this variable, and it will return a promise that I can consume, just like most APIs that returns a promise, then I consume it. So I say then, in this then keyword, I can give another function, and I can give the parameter, for example, I can give the parameter say object, and here what I can do is, to make it simple, I just console log object. So if the promise failed, then I will do catch statement, and it will be the same. It will give me an error message, and I can do something with the error message. And now let's run our demo. So let's go to terminal and let's say node.js, node of index.js. As you can see, it console log my name and my age. And what if the promise is rejected? So if I change the test value to 1, the promise will reject and it will give me the error message. So why we use the promise instead of just using a simple if-else statement? Because if we use if-else statement, the process will be linear and it will have to wait for the promise to finish. Then it will have to wait for a series of actions inside of a promise to finish. Then it go to the next step. But if we use a promise, so the workflow of our program will be an asynchronized. So it can do something else when our API is processing the promise. So basically, a promise is just a series of statements that eventually returns eventually given a value that based on the value we decide if our promise is resolved or rejected. Then we consume the promise and use the object or variable that coming from the promise, and it is used for asynchronous purpose. And from what I know, it is replacing callbacks, because promise can do almost anything that callbacks can do, and callbacks is outdated these days.